Hello and welcome to Number Talks. Today we are looking at the expression 32 times 5. How we do number talk is we use mental math to solve this expression. No paper, no pencil. And then we think about the strategy that we use to solve it, and we look to see if there are any different ways that we can figure out how to solve 32 times 5. So before we go any further, go ahead and pause the video, figure out what 32 times 5 is, keep in mind what strategy you used, and then unpause the video and let's see if I found your way of finding 32 times 5. All right, so one way, not many people use this. It is the distributive property, but it's kind of doubling. But let's take our 32 times 5 and let's figure this out first. We are going to take our 5 and we're going to break it up. So we're going to keep our 32, but we're going to say, you know what, this 5 is really 2 plus 2 plus 1, which it is. The distributive property lets us take that 32 and then multiply it by each of these add-ins in smaller chunks. So that lets us take 32 and let's just double it. 32 times 2, well that's 64. And then we're going to take another 32 and double it. That's going to be another 64. And then we've got one more 32, but we just need to add that by itself. So we've got 64 and 64, so that's going to be 128. And then if we put another 32 in there, well then we are going to get 160. So 160, hopefully that's what you got. If not, let's look to see if we can figure out another way to do it. So 32 times 5. Instead of breaking up the 5, let's break up the 32. Some of you might have chosen to take our 32 and break it up into half. 16 times 16. It's still the distributive property. We're still going to take that 5 and distribute it out and multiply it by each of these add-ins. So we're just going to take our 16 times 5. That's 80. We're going to take our another 16, multiply that by 5 again. That's another 80. It's a lot easier to kind of mentally put together. 160. So 32 times 5, we might have just taken the distributive property once again and just taken that 32 and broken it down by place value. So 30 plus 2, think of it like expanded form. And we're going to take this 5, we're going to distribute it out to both the 2 and the 30. So we're going to say 30 times 5, that's 150. And then 2 times 5, that's 10. So that's super easy. Again, we're going to get 160. So we've got 3 different ways that we can use the distributive property to figure this out. Sometimes doubling and halving works. Now watch how simple this becomes. What 32 times 5 doubled and halved means we're going to take one of our factors. In this case, we're going to take 32, we're going to cut it in half. So half of 32 is 16. So you notice how we took our 32, we made it gray right here. So we're going to get rid of that. In order to keep a balanced expression, if we have one of our factors, we need to double the other factor. So double 5 to 10. So you notice I've got 2 5s here. 16 times 10, that's just 16 with a 0. That's 160. So doubling and halving doesn't always work, but when it does, it makes things really, really easy. We can look at the associative property here. So the associative property lets us group factors differently. So we're going to take our 32 times 5. We're going to break up our 32, and we're going to say, you know what, that's really just 4 times 8. Multiply that by 5. So the associative property lets us change the grouping when we have 3 or more factors. If you do it with addition, you need 3 or more add-ins. So all we're doing is we're shifting the groups. And I'm shifting my parentheses to where instead of 4 times 8, I want 4 groups of 8 times 5. And that's what we have here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 groups of 5. So that's going to be 40. And I've got 4 rows. So there's my 4 right there. So I've got 4 rows of 40, 40, 80, 120, 160. And then finally, we could also use the associative property if we want to just count by tens. So watch this. We're going to take our 32 times 5. And we are going to break up our 32, but instead of 4 times 8, we're going to make it 16 times 2. 16 times 2, 16 doubled makes 32. Multiply that by 5. And so what we're going to do is simply shift our groups. We're going to say, you know what? I want 2 groups of 5. I want 16 groups of 2 groups of 5. And that's what we have here. And this little connector here means it's supposed to be one big long column, but my screen's not long enough. So I've got 2 groups, right? 2 columns. And each column's got groups of 5, so that's 10. So I'm just going to count 10. I'm going to skip count by tens all the way until I get 16 times. And that's going to get me 160. So all the way down here, just skip count by tens until you get 16 times. That's 160 once again. So these are just a few ways that you can solve this problem. 32 times 5. If you found another way, that's fantastic. Go ahead and drop that as a comment to the video. Teachers, if you would like to get a copy of this slide deck for your own use, you can find it on my website, 5minutemath.net.